Well,
We're in the holiday season, man.
oh, wait a minute. Hold, please.
Hold please.
My other microphone selected. What's the point of having a fancy microphone if it's not going to be selected? Here we go. Does
That
that sound?
does
We can
that
do
does
the test.
Yep, that does sound clear.
All right, here we go again. Totally classic, coming to you early December 2024. And I just pulled a switcheroo on my good friend Brendan here, who loves to do research. He's a prolific researcher. I depend on that. And we were going to talk about Trump, and I decided I need a break.
I
So,
get it. I get it.
so instead, the question for the day is, should non-Christians celebrate Christmas?
I like it. It weaves in a lot of elements of cultural appropriation, colonialism, as you mentioned, consumerism. And it's interesting because my immediate pushback, because I can always find some place to push back immediately, is I actually think Thanksgiving is the far more clearly Christian holiday than Christmas. So for me, we're right between now. We're between Thanksgiving and Christmas here in the United States, and Thanksgiving is a specifically Christian, specifically United States of American holiday. It's the first holiday that was ever decreed in our nation's history. It is our foundational holiday. I know versions of it have been adapted in places around the world, and of course, meals of Thanksgiving have taken place, I think, as long as human beings have gathered together to have meals. And of course, it comes in a kind of end of harvest season time. So there's international multicultural tie-ins, but at least in the U.S., that was a holiday that was expressly declared as a time for us all, everyone in the nation, to give thanks to God. So it's very specifically, it is most explicitly Christian of holidays. I think having survived mostly intact in the modern setting. Whereas, as we're going to get into Christmas, Christmas is even Easter as well, an elaborately syncretized holiday at this point. Obviously, crossover winter solstice um, and even the foundations of the time aren't have very little to do with the time of Christ's birth, where most historians consider it somewhere likely around his birth anyway, around um, April, kind of probably somewhere in that zone. March, April, May, somewhere in there, based on when the census was declared in that particular year, because we have all this, and when certain rulers were ruling, because the gospel accounts are really rife with historical context to let you know exactly what time period this took place in. So uh, my initial response, based on all that tumbling thought, is at the start of this conversation, I'm just going to go ahead and say thumbs up. And on this one, I will speak as an emissary for all Christians. So any Christians in the world who hear this and have pushback, I, as your duly unelected representative, although elect representative for all you reformed heads out there, um, I am your man today.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you generally want more people on your team, even if they're up in the nosebleed section, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you're wearing the right colors.
Um, yeah, so I'm a tentative yes to start,
Yeah.
and I'm qualifying that. Um, but I have this question. Does Christmas have something to do with Christ?
I know. Fascinating, right? I mean, in the modern sense, it's a tenuous connection, and this is why I brought up Thanksgiving. For example, had the question been on Thanksgiving, I would say a non-Christian would be far less able to celebrate Thanksgiving. Christmas, for some reason, gets all the attention, but Thanksgiving is specifically, again, it's a holiday declared to give thanks to, very specifically, like the God of the Bible, the Christian God. So it's a fundamentally religious holiday, whereas Christmas is sort of a less defined, to me, it's a less defined holiday. I don't know. I don't even know 100%. Again, this is not being able to do the research. I don't know when the origins of the syncretism of Christmas began. So I mean, Christ is in there. His name is, and it Christmas, like right, Christ has arrived. Christ is coming. Christ's announcement, really, especially, and that's a fascinating thing to think about. That if he was born in April, then Christmas might actually be more appropriately celebrating his incarnation, meaning the start of his life, meaning his conception, the fertilization moment, um, which would have come whatever prior. So. Yeah, Christ is in there, and there's quite a bit of pushback culturally I've known in the Christian space of like, let's put Christ back in Christmas, and people being upset that it was Xmas, even though, as many Christians know, X has been used as a Exian Christian, like it's been used as a fill-in for Christ for far before any of us was born. So it's not, it was never necessarily blasphemous, although some may have had blasphemous intent. Um, it really is, and because at this point we have Satan Claus with such dominance over the holiday that for many it really has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with Christ at all. I think in the way that a fat chunk of people celebrate the holiday. Whereas at least Thanksgiving is about giving thanks. So even if you don't have like a relationship with the creator of the universe, you might still be like, well, but I'm grateful to people around me necessarily, which wouldn't be what Thanksgiving is for, but people would probably do that. Or you might even be grateful in the like, I'm grateful to the universe, or I'm grateful to, in some ways, like the unknown God, the unknown force of being, force of something. Whereas
Yeah.
Christmas for most people just seems kind of about like a winter get together when it's cold outside and the exchanging of gifts to sort of show appreciation.
Yeah, definitely presence.
Yeah, presents are presents, you know.
That's funny. We talked about that. Rachel put that on a, my wife put that on a birthday invite for her daughter years ago and said,
Yeah,
your presence is your present. And
yeah,
people were so confused. They were like, they still brought physical presents because they're,
sure.
I don't know what this means.
Oh,
And
that's so funny. I
I
thought
don't,
that was I'm right with her. I thought that was the accepted phrase that one uses in for exactly those purposes.
I guess, but
Yeah.
they wanted to like hedge their bets and be like, well, we're not going to be the only one without a present if this is some cryptic,
Yes.
way to ask for material goods. Um,
Yeah.
and by the way, for context, I, Andy Swindler, am not a Christian. Very open, have lots of Christian friends, have hung in many Christian circles, even played in a Christian rock band
That's right.
in high school, although technically it was called Fish, not the one you hate, but the Fellowship of Interdenominational Senior Highs. So I guess technically not just Christian, but
Okay.
all I remember is playing Christian, music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And even
But
interdenominational would tentatively could be described as like essentially the panoply of Christian approaches,
oh no,
sort
no,
of
that's right. I think
biblical
you're right.
thought.
I think it
Yeah.
was Christian. It was interdenominational Christian. So that
Yeah,
makes
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sense.
Now, some, of
Okay.
course, denominations might argue about how Christian other denominations are, but I think that's a conversation for another time.
Indeed.
Yes, and I'm Brendan McNamara, and I am a Christian, firmly and fundamentally, and maybe even a zealot. I would consider myself a fundamentalist and an evangelical Christian. I'm not in what a lot of those words mean in a cultural context, but what they literally mean. So we are indeed speaking for our cohorts today. So yeah, I mean, I celebrate Christmas. I feel a little weird about it. I don't love it. I loved it as a kid, but I didn't love it to like as a day of remembering Jesus being born. Although that's my wife who grew up Catholic has a little more of like rituals and which we'll probably talk more about, but like rituals and what is it? Almost like catechizing the the holiday itself, which I didn't grow up with as like a Protestant. So we have like an Advent thing on our mantle in our living room right now. So where every day we read a different part of the story that leads up to Christ's incarnation over 25 days of the month. And every day we like turn over a different block and we all read a story together and move the star along block to block. And so day by day, we are kind of like trying to consecrate the season in ritual. Um, so we put up our tree. But again, the tree to me doesn't have any powerful metaphorical use. Um, but yeah, so to me, I'm trying to learn how to make it. more sacred. Whereas I think by the time I was in my teenage years, I was kind of like, Christmas is kind of malarkey. And I've always hated Santa Claus, so I'll helpfully and happily say that out loud um, right now. That even though I'm not entirely convinced of the religious foundation of Christmas, I find Santa Claus's presence related to the holiday maximally offensive, and I would even maybe even say blasphemous, which tells me there's at least some shred of me that considers it a religious holiday.
A quick, very quick research, as is possible these days,
Yes.
summarized by AI, which take it for what it is, suggests that Santa Claus, the cheerful, fat, white bearded man in a red suit, became embedded in American culture after the artist Thomas Nast drew a depiction
Yeah,
of Santa Claus for a Coca-Cola advertisement in 1881.
I know. Is that wild? I mean, in some ways, I don't understand how anyone's on his tip when you go back to his origins. I mean, could he be more of he's literally a capitalist colonization of a holiday meant to, where we're meant to gather and be safe from the frigid cold, together. And to share bounty in the midst of winter is already like, that is almost a religious declaration unto itself, because that's so unwise. Just like Thanksgiving is kind of unwise. Oh, we have our harvest bounty. Let's all eat a ton of it. Like that's not wise, right? You're supposed to hold on to that to last you the entire winter. But as winter fully sets in, oh, let's spend money. Let's share and give things even when we're in the midst of having, apparently looking ahead of us, nothing. So it is very faithful. It's a very faithful exercise, Christmas is, in that way, to be like, I'm going to spend what I have in hope, in hope or cleaving to the promise that there will be a tomorrow where I will be able to have more, and this won't leave me destitute. Although I've overspent on Christmas and certainly harmed myself financially in the past.
Yeah, I've certainly overextended myself, buying presents for people I love, and that doesn't seem in service of much of anything useful, other than a moment of joy.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm just again like just thinking about even my wedding, which you were deeply involved with. A lot of it we designed very intentionally, very carefully,
yeah,
and we actually stripped out, some of the more specific religious or Christian language, not because we did detest it, but because it was like, well, it's not us, and so it doesn't
yeah,
if it doesn't represent us. It was funny though, our officiant, who's an very old family friend, actually insisted on leaving some references in because he's Christian, and
yeah,
as a sacred right, he's like, I'm not just doing this for you. Like, I'm involved in this, and I have to
yeah,
stand in my faith to make this sacred. And I thought that was really
yeah,
really cool. So it's again, as I guess is the whole theme of this show. It's like we don't have to agree or practice the exact same things, but can we agree on, you know, what is sacred seems to be one question we're both holding around this holiday in particular. Um, and again, just thank you, AI summary. As you I think mentioned or alluded to, going back to pagan celebrations related to the solstice, the winter solstice,
yeah,
and then eventually it looks like in the fourth century, the Christian Church deciding to call Christmas the December 25th. And part of that seemed like a marketing tactic to
yeah,
coincide with pagan celebrations and to attract non-Christian followers. So hey, that seemed
yeah,
worked pretty well.
yeah.
I was at a publishing conference years ago, and this guy it was a good keynote. First slide, picture of the Bible. He says, "I contend that this is the first successful content marketing strategy."
Yeah.
Sure. Um,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Fourth century is that is, wow, that's even earlier than I thought. That's like pre-Islam. That's pretty fascinating.
hmm.
So that is a long time. That's a long time to be celebrating in this time, which then you would just think in terms of, we've observed this, we've talked about this, in terms of how if trauma lives in the body, then one has to assume that grace lives in the body as well. And blessing can also transcend generations. So that if we've been doing it for that long, just that degree of focused intention, just as the same way we celebrate a nation, right? I'm always skeptical of nationalism, but there's it exists, and it may have some credence and utility. That much time, if we've spent that much time focusing on the gift of God coming in some ways out of darkness or lack, which winter very, especially winter solstice celebrating cultures, winter very much exhibit. Like it is a powerful season of desperation, danger, and lack. Then that sort of start to wonder, does that kind of create its own sacred calendar in and of itself? Like, does having done so, having, one might even say the, majority of like religiously practicing people around the world celebrating that for centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries, does that start to create its own, uh, and this is super new agey, but like there's a gravity created by that intention, by that repeated practice.
Yeah, does the mere practice of ritual become meaningful for its own?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to have to go with yes, unless
yeah, yeah,
unless the ritual was truly uh, bestowed from above, uh, which I guess is the point of a lot of this. But but maybe not so much with Christmas, as I'm reading that, at least that very brief description of when it was created or concocted. So I've been to Bethlehem, which is
yeah,
still located in the West Bank of Palestine, and basically right across the street from Jerusalem. And I honestly, I felt it felt weird. It felt like a lot of it was lost on me. I'm visiting places where
sure.
Jesus walked and where he was born, and these churches. And one of the surprises that I had was meeting a lot of Palestinians who were Christian.
Yeah,
And I think in my ignorance, I was like, well, they must all be Muslim and Islamic.
yeah, yeah,
So that was eye-opening in its own way. And then I just to tag on, I was talking about our wedding, and it's so talk about ritual. So we had a unity candle, which I don't know.
yeah,
I guess I associate with Christianity as a pretty common practice in weddings. But the idea of using fire as a symbol to
yeah,
move between generations
yeah.
seems like it can't possibly be limited to one practice or one religion or one
Oh, it would.
one
Yeah,
culture.
yeah.
That's we like we do fire ceremonies, my wife and I, where we burn things that aren't serving us anymore. So we
Yeah.
just bring in that idea of fire. But if you were just watching the practice, you'd be like, oh, they have a unity candle. I wonder if they're Christian.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't, I've never been, I think I've been to a couple weddings in the past like 10 years, but yeah, the candle unity thing was relatively new to me,
Hmm.
maybe in the past decade,
Okay.
for wedding ceremonies. I thought it was sweet though. I always think it's nice to like bring your fire together. And certainly throughout Judaism, which then for would have to be part of Christianity and Islam, uh, God exhibited as fire is quite prevalent. Burning bush, fire during the night, leading the Israelites across the desert, and God being a refining fire, the burning of sacrifices, especially, would be steadily there. Um, and
So that's interesting. This is like when I went to Nashville and I was like, man, I got some of that old fashioned hot chicken. And you were like, yeah, that's a new thing.
yeah, it's pretty new. Yeah, yeah. I think it's 90s, maybe 90s, 2000s, 2010 even. Might even be that late. Um,
This is
yeah,
how shallow our cultures are.
well, yeah. I mean,
One
this is
generation. It's been around forever.
I know that's well, hey, it's based on how rapidly most things go away and most things get transformed into something with no uh like little to no bearing on how things once were. It does make sense to celebrate. I think we celebrate things anniversaries very quickly nowadays. So Christmas is interesting in that sense, I suppose. Yeah, I think of it as like a barely Christian holiday. Um, But again, being married to someone who grew up Catholic, I think it's like a staunchly Christian holiday. Like it's a day that like they went to church on that day, and they went to church sometimes the night before, and then they went to church the next day. And so it was very focused on praising God. Where I think we grew up as like, well, it's like a thing. It's a time that we celebrate because it's kind of we all celebrate it, and it's the time that we remember like Jesus being born. So at some point, you'll play the Charlie Brown's Christmas, and then Linus will come out and tell you what the day is all about. And
Yeah.
his, the shepherds get, and peace. What is it? Peace on earth, goodwill to men on whom his favor dwells. Which I feel like Linus forgot to say, and I feel like growing up, I hardly ever heard. But
Hmm.
that to me, that's a fascinating like declaration on the angels come and speak to the shepherds, as Linus relates for anyone who grew up on Peanuts Christmas, because I certainly grew up on Charlie Brown's Christmas as like a something we watched every year, and in some ways
Wow.
might have been the most profound, like the most profoundly religious offering of the season most years, in terms of like media consumed. Although we listened to Christmas carols pretty heavy, we would sing Christmas carols at the house. But I feel like Christmas songs have replaced Christmas carols almost exclusively now in the pop culture, which was not like, I don't know, maybe it was different where you were. But when I was a kid, Christmas carols like played in malls, on the radio. And now you hardly ever hear Christmas carols. You only hear Christmas songs, which are kind of more like, rocking around the Christmas tree, or what's the Mariah Carey song that I have already heard 7 times this year and I don't want to hear it ever again? What's that one called, hon?
Oh, my stepdaughter is singing it nonstop.
Oh, All I Want for
All I
Christmas
want
Is You.
is you. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Oh, and let me say this out loud because I haven't said this anywhere. I do think like Ariana Grande's song. What is that? Huh? What's hers one? I've heard that enough the past like 4 or 5 years that I was like, it might have entered. Santa Tell Me. That might have entered the Christmas canon. We haven't had a new addition to the Christmas canon in quite some years, guys. It's been since Mariah Carey, which is what, 30 years ago or something, 20 something years ago. What's that? Yeah, but I know Bublé's tried, John Legend has tried. Everyone's trying to like, everyone tries to bring the Christmas heat and join the canon. No one gets to do it. So in
Yeah.
some ways, I think while you and I have grown up, Christmas has become far less religious. And again, Coca-Cola, I think, is winning in a lot of households. I see way more people elf on the shelving than I see advent calendars. Whereas growing up, I knew kids who weren't Christians who had advent calendars just so they could eat chocolate every day. But it still was kind of like related to the Christian aspect of the season. But now it's like I feel like it's so dominantly in some ways antichrist, that it's hard to recognize the season as even being religious. So it may have been, I don't know, like it's about as religious it's about as sacred as a dream catcher, to most folks.
We've got one of those too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got an Urban Outfitters. It's so cool.
We well, it is good branding, if
Yes.
the bake to bake Christ right into the name.
Yeah, it
Um,
was smart. Smart.
two quick tags, and then I'll talk a little bit about our rituals.
Yeah.
They're both in terms of the timing of it, it does that, engender its own meaning. It reminds me a little of a colleague, Abigail Rose Clark, talks about
Hmm.
New Year's, Gregorian New Year's, which we celebrate as December 31st and January 1st,
Yeah.
of course. Uh, and she would say, well, it's meaningless in a cosmic sense. It's just something we put on a calendar, but it
Yeah.
actually starts to become meaningful when 3 billion people stop to celebrate it at the same time.
Yeah.
And so there is something to there energetically. I mean, it's like the power of prayer.
Yeah.
And just in terms of, those of us who are plugged into capitalism, which I assume is most of us, whether we work or whether we have kids in school or whatever, just agreeing on a time off,
Yeah.
which I understand the Europeans tend to do that in August as well. We're not as good about that here in the States, I think, but
Yeah.
this we all agree, and often people
Yeah.
really like take it. It's one of the weird benefits of corporate life is often
Yes.
they just are like, no, we're done for 2, maybe even 3 weeks. So, yep.
Yeah, it is fascinating, right? Well, and to consider, it's interesting. I mean, this is, I think, especially in the US, there's a trifold, even, and one might even say a quartet of celebrations, because for Halloween, I know is like the peak holiday for most kids I know. but Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's really rolls us into our own reset, our own kind of like take a rest, our own Sabbath, like almost like universal Sabbath or like, whatever, worldwide global Sabbath to like rest, reorient, like you start by giving thanks to God. You then sort of celebrate with each other and give bountifully, even in the midst of having nothing. Or for a lot of people, then you stop earning because you go on vacation, or it's winter and you can't harvest, you can't grow anything in snow. You will flipping die without other people, that sort of thing. And then the new year so much feels like, again, like a focused intention. And that to me is, I actually think, again, Thanksgiving is explicitly God centered. Christmas is sort of, I guess it has been adapted to be so. But the new year, like January 1st, that might be the most powerfully Christian moment of all, and perhaps the least celebrated as such, because it literally is Anno Domini. Like for most, I don't, Jewish calendar is different. I know some, but pretty much everyone around the world knows when January 1st is, right? So we all watch New Year's Eve celebrations, and there are fireworks going on at different times. And every time zone around the planet. So that's close to 8.2 billion people celebrating the renewal of things specifically based on the life of Jesus Christ. Like our calendar was completely reset based on the life of God made flesh. That's pretty crazy. And I think that's the most profoundly religious thing. So when we were talking offline about people being identifying as cultural Christians, anybody who writes 2024 on a check today is a cultural Christian, ultimately. Like Christ has specifically impacted the way that you recognize what flippin' day it is. I mean, that's pretty powerful. So I feel like in some ways, New Year's, Christmas might be the least Christian of all. And I say this as a Christian. So it's interesting to put those three patterns together. So when we all go, yep, it's the beginning of the year, we're all agreeing, yep, like we all agree to the timeline that was reshaped essentially based on Christ's life. They're like, oh, this is when everything changed. And I know historians, just call it common era and before common era, but I think that's a deliberate secularization of what actually happened. And what actually happened is a person lived, was mildly popular in their life, enormously popular after their death, so much so that they were like, "Oh, this is the turning point of all human history." And then we changed the entire calendar to be Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. And so every year that we're celebrating is the next year of our Lord. That's pretty powerful. And what's so amazing to me is, despite like anti-religious, atheistic influences or whatever, that is unshakable. Like that has been unshakable. Like we've turned Christmas into essentially like it's more about Satan Claus than it is about Christ, just to the general pop culture. But the new year, as celebratory and reckless and raucous or debauched or fun as you might want to make it. That's right. I put debauched and fun next to each other. They can be so. Um, that in some ways is actually a profoundly religious declaration. Like every time we do it. And every time we correct, think about that, Andy. Like when the new year rolls around, I don't know about you, it takes me till February, sometimes even March. I still write the wrong year. I actually almost wrote 2025 the other day because my brain was already like thinking about it. So every time we correct ourselves, we're going, oh, no, no, no. The correct Anno Domini, the correct year of our Lord. And Lord is a powerful word when you say Domini, right? Because that's not just like God, but that's the Lord meaning like our dominator, like our dominion, like our king. So that's pretty, I mean, in some ways, that's even more religious. That might even be more of a cultural appropriation than anything.
Well, that's one of the words we were attempting to edit out of our wedding ceremony because I
Yes,
agree. It's like I'm not saying it's wrong it's like I don't want to use the word Lord
you don't mean it.
if
Yeah.
I'm not in that honoring, that just seems
Oh,
like
for sure.
a strange, word to bring around.
It
But,
is.
but you mentioned it, so like cultural appropriation and given the tone of this conversation also seems a little odd because it seems like, I mean, a lot of this does fall into some kind of like marketing or recruiting strategy from Christians. So
Yeah.
it seems like, I don't know, I'm actually changing my tone a little because I kind of imagine there might be people who are like, oh, if you're not like a real hardcore Christmas person, then you're not legit Christian. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know.
No,
Especially from your opinion that Christmas is in no way correlated to being a legit Christian. Um, and then it just almost seems like a marketing tactic anyway. So it's
it
like,
kind of, I mean, it kind of, it's a syncret. It's, listen, a lot of religions are like this. Like it is a, what's syncretism is what it's called. It's like a blending of religious traditions, essentially. Or in
right.
that way, it's actually blending of potentially religious, but also just like cultural, which is not quite the same as religious. Meaning, it's like, oh, this is the bounty we receive, and we recognize it from a nebulous something. And so, for some people, would be worship of a specific divinity or whatever. Because when you're talking about the sacred or the divine, you are talking about something that either exists or doesn't exist, and it's not. It can't quite be one to one into just like how things are. Like that's sort of, those are sort of separate categories. But yeah, well, it's, and it may be surprising to people who are perhaps in the cultural Christian space, which we should talk about the dual purpose of, or the dual meaning of that word. In the Christian space, there are plenty, oh plenty. At least I, if I ask, my mom knows more of them individually, like as people, so I know a lot of them through my mom. There's plenty of people who don't celebrate Christmas, who are Christians, who like have nothing to do with the holiday, just
Hmm.
don't celebrate Halloween, don't celebrate Christmas. They would do Thanksgiving. They would write the year down. They would celebrate Anno Domini, the year of our Lord, every year that it happens. But yeah, Christmas, celebrating Christmas is not a universally Christian thing. But I think a lot of that might have to do A, with the pagan origins, potential syncretism there, and then secondly, the fact that it has become a stridently, I would say, antichrist holiday in the way that we celebrate it. Where again, like Coca-Cola has as much pop cultural space, if not more, than Jesus does. You know, the
Oh,
the Christmas, the Charlie Brown's Christmas might be the last time that there was like a pop culture thing that was very specifically like baby in the manger and the shepherds watching over their flocks and the angels appearing in the sky and the wise men, you know, that has kind of that's kind of become sort of set off in a we've kind of become segregated, I think, culturally. And I think that's why people want to bring it back. They're like, well, wait, we used to all be unified on this.
right. We used to also have be able to talk about the same movies and the same TV shows and the same,
Yeah.
it's just I think a lot of things
Yeah.
fragmented. But
Yeah.
side note, Coca-Cola, my gosh, what a profound example of colonialism. I understand that in other countries they're so good at localizing the brand.
Yeah.
In other countries, people think Coca-Cola it was invented and first made in their country. I'm like,
That's
wow,
a May. That's yeah. They're hecka good at it. And really, I mean, to the point where like when you see things that are red and white, candy canes, Santa Claus, Coca-Cola, those all those are some I think the white stripes now as well, but those are firmly like they co-own at the very least two primary color and all colors.
yeah.
It's
Well, I
pretty
want to talk
impressive.
a little bit about my
Impressive.
my family's rituals. You
Yeah.
all yours. Christmas was a big deal in my house growing up.
Yeah.
Lots of fun, waking up the morning of Christmas, running down. You know, I think when we were really young, we actually insisted to open presents before breakfast, and then as we got older, it was like, okay, we're not as excited by the gifts, and we can. But I think, yeah, part of the fun of it, as you mentioned numerous times, is having gratitude for each other and
Yeah.
being in love with each other. And yeah, from a cosmic sense, it's like I love relating things to the solstice if that's with one of the origin points because that seems more meaningful than a lot of human-made rituals, so to speak. But one of the things I love, and I think this is true for a lot of people, is giving the gift. Watching somebody
Yeah.
open it. In fact, 2 years ago, it was my now wife and I's first Christmas together, and I had given her a necklace, and I missed her opening it. She was sitting right next to me, and
Oh no.
in our
Yeah.
family, it's like you get somebody's attention if it's
Yes.
like, hey, I'm opening your thing. But in
Yeah.
other families, that's not a thing. Like the voyeurism aspect of the gift giving is not a thing. So it's really
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting even how that kind of but we used to go out to the country in the middle of Missouri, cut down a Christmas tree, so and now we have an artificial one, which I like because it seems a little more environmentally friendly, but it also is just practical because it's got these wires that you can sort of bend, and it's a little easier to deal with in that way. But no, nothing really smells like the freshly killed tree.
No, we have a fir scented candle.
There you go. See,
Yeah.
but I just found a box of my old ornaments, which was buried away somewhere, and
Oh, cool.
super sentimental because my mom is like every year that gives us ornaments and writes the year on them. And
Yeah,
then the elf on the shelf, which you mentioned, I did not do that. I don't know. I don't think that was around when we were kids.
I don't think so. To
But
me, that's like the past 10 years. I'd never heard of it previous. Yeah.
my stepdaughter is fanatical about it, and
Yeah.
even though I'm not sure, I know for sure one of our elves is not technically Elf on the Shelf brand. Like they did not
Oh,
get
oh,
money
oh,
for
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
The
the other
trademark.
one might actually be. We got a companion for it, and so that might have been technically Elf on the Shelf, but they're very similar. Um, and it's funny this year I forgot where I put them. I mean and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
my stepdaughter's like, I hope she listens to this episode years from now after she maybe stops believing in them. But
Yeah.
which as I say that, it's like a sad assumption that she's going to stop believing in the magic of these elves. And I don't know. It's a game we play, and
Yeah.
I have to assume part of her knows that's a game we're playing, but I also we say every year, it's like, oh my God, she's 9. It's like, oh my God, she still believes in Santa Claus. She still believes in elves, and we're
Yeah.
celebrating that. It's
Yeah.
we talk a lot about delusion and
Yeah.
psychosis, and it's like, but we celebrate it in kids because we can call it magic, right?
Yeah.
And they believe. I think she believes in magic, and it's just fun. It's fun to play this game. Last thing is the advent calendar. We have a whiteboard in the kitchen, and she drew a big advent calendar, and it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
cute. It's a creative thing. Every day she changes the number into like a little symbol for what was the sort of most magical or most important thing that happened that day. Um, so
Yeah.
it would seem very odd. I'm going to go through a little thought exercise. Like, what would it feel like for me not to celebrate Christmas? That would seem
Right.
really odd, probably a bit sad.
Especially in our culture. Yeah. In our culture, it's very hard. I mean, this is the alienation I feel like that, like my Jewish friends had growing up, where they were
Oh,
like, yeah,
we were singing Christmas songs in elementary school, and
yeah.
two Jewish kids would be standing on the side, and I'm kind of like, oh, I
Oh,
wonder what that's
yeah.
about.
I know. Well, it's about you guys, hilariously. It's literally, this is just a pure Jewish story that we're celebrating, guys.
Well, maybe that
Um,
was it. They just wanted to be the audience. They're like, oh, we're just going to enjoy your
yeah,
song.
we're just gonna enjoy it that you enjoy you celebrating us. But yeah, but no, but that, people sort of joke about it's like, oh, we just had Hanukkah or whatever. It's like, oh, but you had so many days of presents or whatever. But even Hanukkah is a response to Christmas. Hanukkah's, let me just say it the simplest way. Hanukkah's bullshit. Hanukkah is a response to Christmas. Hanukkah's importance and prevalence is specifically as like kind of came out of FOMO. And I'm going to go ahead and claim that whether AI repeats it or not. But you're welcome to AI it up. Um, it's just like it's not a key festival. It wasn't it's not one of the there's many major festivals that like God commanded his people to celebrate, which I always think is hilarious that God's like, here is when you party, and you party on this day, and you party on this day, and you must feast and party on this day. I just think it's funny. So it's no surprise, I suppose, that we have more parties to celebrate. But it does you do understand it's not just like a little joking thing. Yeah, it's profoundly alienating to be in a culture that goes all in, man. There's a month at least where there's lights up everywhere. This is why it's become kind of Christmas is in the air. And I think as we've become divorced from any sort of religious origins, both solstice and whatever that would be, like the millennia of celebrating as Christ's birth, it's just something's happening. We're all paying attention in a different way, which is absolutely its own form of magic. So you guys do Elf on the Shelf, and you also do Santa Claus. So I grew up in Boston, where the Salvation Army Santa Clauses were everywhere as a kid. They don't really dress like Santa Claus anymore. Or at least all the Salvation Army people just have vests. They have
Mhm.
vests on. But the Santa Claus Salvation Army guys were all over the place. And if you watch movies from the 70s and 80s, you'll see them all over. They're like a popular trope in fiction of the time. Um, So I grew up not believing in Santa Claus because there was Santa Clauses everywhere. I was like, okay, obviously it's just like a bunch of guys in a costume. It wasn't like, oh, Santa miraculously moved from block to block. Like sometimes you could see them both. Um, and so I never believed in Santa Claus. And so I grew up, I hate Santa Claus. I want nothing to do with it. And I find it, in some ways, I find Santa Claus profoundly disturbing. I believe in magic. I believe in elves. I believe dragons existed, maybe exist presently. I believe throughout my life and still now that at some point I'm going to be able to figure out how to fly. Like I did not, I'm not that, I don't think we figured everything out in terms of the realms of the laws of physics, so, or gravity even. Believe in magic, but I don't believe in Santa Claus. And the thing I don't like about Santa Claus is Santa Claus to me is the worst possible version of what religion is,
Mm.
where someone's like, I don't believe in this, but I want you to make you believe in it. And then here's some good things that'll be about that. But then it basically suggests it's a similar, it's patterning in, and then the more it gets patterned in, the more I'm like, oh, the more they're going to be associated, meaning it is the what's the word? Yeah, it's the most intentionally manipulative form of religion possible, where the people teaching it don't believe it, right? Which would be like kind of the most evil church you can imagine. It's like, yes, Jesus came. Jesus came and he was God made flesh and he died for your sins. And if you believe in him, you'll be forgiven and you can have a relationship with God and you'll have a relationship with God for all eternity and you won't be punished. Like, so if someone believed that and said it, even if they were wrong, there's some like hopeful nobility in that, where they're like they truly they're not lying at the very least. But if someone's saying the thing that they know isn't true and then getting other people to believe it, even though they themselves don't believe it, like that's I would think that's the worst. Like if the Catholic Church was doing that all these years. So to me, like Santa Claus, growing up as a kid, because again, I've never had the experience of believing in him. I was just, why would parents do this? Especially Christian parents. So I'm gonna call it all Christian parents. I think it's profoundly anti-Christian to celebrate, tell your kids that Santa Claus exists, because you're essentially telling them throughout their life now about various and sundry invisible, miraculous beings who sort of see them for their goodness and recognize them for their goodness and recognize them in their frailty and falsehood and still come to them gracefully even though they've been imperfect and all this. There's all these parallels in the ways that, not I'm not blaming Coca-Cola creator or the individual dude who we all should know. This guy's, I should know his name. It's a pretty profound invention this guy invented. It might be the the commercial version of the wheel. um that we're co-introducing these things, and then at some point we're going to go ahead and be like, ha, 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 we were just kidding about one of them.
I think you mean ho ho ho.
Yeah, ho, 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 ho. Just kidding. So now you guys aren't religious anyway. So for you, you're just like, here we can. It's almost like the Life of Pi. Did you ever read that book? Where I hated the ending of it because, of course, I have a relationship with God. So then at the end, I'm going to ruin it. Spoiler alert! If you haven't read the book from 40 years ago or saw the movie from 25 years ago, at the end, the author is like, isn't it better? Isn't the magical story better? Whether it's true or not, isn't it just kind of wonderful that we can all kind of just maybe believe the more magical thing together? And I think from an atheistic sense, I can completely understand that. You're like, yeah, but it is kind of wonderful to have stories, and we have to recognize how important stories are, and they bond us together or whatever. So it makes sense for you, but I'm always curious as to people who do the Santa Claus thing. Christians, I have very little patience for the conversation because I just don't. I, I feel like it's one of those areas where I'm like, I've never heard a good argument as to why to do it. But for your own, like if what, how do you navigate that?
Well, we are in fact creasters. Um,
Yes.
we believe in, you know, bearded dudes delivering presents and bunnies laying eggs as our celebration of Christianity for
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
well, married into having a stepdaughter, and so that ship had kind of sailed in the sense that, they, I mean, I guess gratefully, like we have more or less the same relationship with Christmas and presents and rituals and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
very,
Listen, I love that part of the holiday. I'm
yeah.
fully on board with that
So
part.
very
It's so
minor
fun.
variations. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
it makes me contemplate like, oh, if I were to have a child and raise them from scratch, would
Yeah.
would I promote the idea of Santa Claus? That's interesting.
It's a weird thing, right? I mean, I don't know where else we do that I mean, there's obviously the pantheon of like what is it, Rise of the Guardians movie, where there's the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and Santa Claus. I'm assuming all three of those came from commercial origins, but I don't know. We can ask ChatGPT later. Um, but all of those are essentially these weird, like, sort of invented. I mean, all whatever. Most legends would be invented, right? But like these sort of invented legendary figures that we convince our kids to believe in for some set amount of time, decades though. So, I mean, for some kid, maybe a decade of it, only to then be like, yeah, that wasn't real. Like somehow that was like a prank, like a some sort of beneficial prank I was playing on you for 10 years or whatever. And I also say this too because I'm sensitive about it. It is one of the most protected religious um, religious beliefs in the modern like the public educational system, as I discovered, because my daughters aren't into Santa Claus, I've never been like, oh, don't tell anyone Santa Claus is not real. The same way they've been told by other
Oh
kids
yeah,
that
it's a
God is,
conspiracy.
yeah. So kids will say it, and teachers have taken my kids aside and been like, you can't say that.
Oh wow.
And my kids have been said, say God's not real. And I would not say that you should take a kid aside and tell them that they can't tell my daughter that God's not real or that Jesus isn't real. I mean, Jesus was a real person, so that's a unwise thing to say. Just like if you said that like Saint Nicholas, whatever, Saint Nicholas didn't exist. He was a real bishop. He was really, I think the funny thing, the whole Saint Nick association, like the figure upon which now like sort of Santa Claus is syncretistically based. I'm assuming the Catholic Church was like, we got to take advantage of this Coca-Cola thing and syncretize that. That guy famously slapped someone, either punched or slapped someone in the face. I think at the Council of Nicaea, but someone could correct me. It was a different council when someone dared to question Jesus Christ's divinity. So I think that's hilarious. So our figure, our Santa Claus figure is actually, syncretized with someone who is like adamantly religious. I think he would be, if that's how intense he was, that he was ready to strike someone, he'd probably be pretty offended that he's now become this like alternate Christ figure in this holiday. So I think Saint Nick guys would slap you all in the face if he could see what you've done with him.
Well, we need to come in for a landing. I have an idea.
Yeah,
We're both
let's,
movie buffs. I've
yeah,
got a list I just came up with of what I consider kind of the standard Christmas movies. What if we do a quick rundown,
yep.
thumbs up or thumbs down
Okay.
on these movies? Number one
Heck
being
yeah.
Elf, which we've already watched. We watched it before Thanksgiving this year. Elf.
Nice.
I'm a big thumbs
Uh,
up for Elf.
oh wait, the question is like, is it a Christmas movie or not, or
Oh,
is this a
oh no, these
quality?
are
Is
all
this
pretty clearly Christmas movies.
these
So
are great?
more
These are
like
like,
just your own opinion about the
are
movie.
these good or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that might be my favorite Santa Claus included holiday movie ever created. I mean, other than the Christmas Story.
Christmas Story.
A Christmas Story, yeah.
Well, that's next on the list. So
Oh, of course it is.
that sounds like a big
Oh, that's a yeah,
thumbs up.
that's a double thumbs up for me. Yeah.
Charlie Brown Christmas, which you've referenced numerous times. I'm certainly a
Yeah.
thumb up for that classic.
Yeah.
So some
That might be the most watched for me. I think we watched that every single year of my life until I was probably like 12 or 13.
mm, this one is somewhat controversial,
Yep.
somewhat broadly, and but like the amount of time devoted to this controversy kind of astounds me. Love Actually.
Oh, wait, well, that's controversial as a Christmas movie, or controversial as in like whether it's
As
loved or hated?
whether it's loved or hated.
Oh,
Yeah.
loved or hated. Oh gosh. I mean, I love it. I don't watch it. RT just finished watching it like two days ago. My wife watched it 2 days ago. She watches it every single year. I've probably seen it maybe 3 or 4 times. I think listen, one storyline I would cut out, and then maybe even another one. There's a
Yeah.
lot of storylines in it. Everyone has their favorite, everyone has their least favorite. I mean, in terms of the modern pantheon of Christmas movies, I think it's A plus.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
I love it. We could
I cry.
quibble
I
about
watched
pieces
it on
of it.
her phone. I cried at the ending of it. I cry at the ending of it every time, even if I haven't watched the whole movie.
Oh yeah.
Whenever I was hugging each other in the
Oh, it's a
airport.
tearjerker. Oh my
Oh my
God.
goodness. Come on.
They pull every string.
Oh,
White Christmas.
I've seen it like once in my life. My mom loves it. It was one of those ones like what's the it's a oh my gosh, the Jimmy Stewart one
It's a
where
Wonderful Life. Yeah,
It's
that's
a
next
Wonderful
on the
Life.
list. Yep.
I've seen it one time. I was like, to me that's like it's my parents' generation movie. Then I'm like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we rewatched it. Similarly, it was
Yeah,
like, yeah, like, I dig it, but it's just
it's fun.
not our
No,
vibe
yeah.
entirely.
White Christmas
Miracle on
is
34th Street would be another
another one that I'm like,
kind of
yeah,
contender.
I mean, I guess if I have to give anything a thumbs down, I'd be giving White Christmas and Miracle on 35th Street, or 34th Street, whatever street it's on. Those both get a thumbs down for me.
Dig it. And It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. It's a like shore. It's a
Maybe your
shore.
thumb to the side. Yeah.
Yeah, thumb to the side. Yeah, don't kill it. Don't get
And
rid of
then
it.
we've got to land on what some people consider the greatest Christmas movie of all time, Die Hard.
Die Hard. Oh, it's two thumbs up. I mean, one of the greatest action movies of all time.
Yeah.
Do you have a
Thank you for
favorite?
hitting my thumb up.
Yes, so thumbs up. Do you have any secret Christmas movies, like meaning like it's not often heralded as one, but it's like the one that you want to make sure stays in the pantheon?
I'm sure I'll think of something
I know, right?
after
The
we
fir-
talk, but those are the ones that come to mind.
yeah, those are great. I would just always add one of my favorite Christmas movies, Gremlins,
Oh, I have not seen
which
that in a very long time.
yeah, love it, and it is like firmly, it literally is like the gift the Gremlin or the Mogwai is given as a Christmas present, and the whole thing takes place like throughout that. There's death involving Christmas trees, and
The
it's
only
good.
other obscure one I would add is Trading Places because there's
Yes.
a famous scene where he hides the like salmon in his Santa Claus beard.
Yes. Good one.
Uh,
Heck yeah.
all right. I love you.
I love you.
I think we'll talk before then, but
We'll
thank
talk
you for
before
this rich
Christmas.
exploration of Christmas.
That's fun.
I feel better about it now. I'm a thumbs up. I think celebrating Christmas is a-okay.
I
Do
think so
do it
too.
your way.
Yeah. Let's all do it. Early Merry Christmas,
And
Andy.
mostly enjoy the time with your loved ones. That's the greatest
I
gift.
think if nothing else, right? Especially in a cold place. I was just thinking of how dangerous the cold is if you don't have other bodies to stay warm with. So stay warm, folks.
All right. Peace, love, joy.
In the year of our Lord. Amen. Bye.